This is my playground. Always we are looking different profiles, different barrels, different times, different anything. Looking for the best profile we can get.
That was Felipe Camarena of G4 Tequila. And I'm Lou Bang.
And I'm Linda Sullivan.
And this is Agave Road Show, the spin-off podcast from Agave Road Trip that helps gringx bartenders better understand specific brands of agave spirits and Mexican spirits, or whatever else anyone wants to pay us to talk about.
Whatever else.
Okay, so boy, you agreed to that way too fast, Linda.
You know, it could go downhill quickly, but I am on this train.
Okay, so we're here to talk about G4 Tequila and Felipe Camarena. He owns the brand and he makes the tequila in the brand. He's known as the engineer. That's his official nickname, though at some point, some popular magazine, I'm guessing that's Time or Newsweek.
Those are both popular.
Yeah. Referred to him as the mad scientist.
Oh, that's funny.
Right? So, okay, are you familiar with G4 at all, Linda? Do you drink G4?
A little bit. Yes, I have enjoyed some tastes of this line in the past.
And do you know why you enjoyed them?
No, I don't know that much about their backstory.
Well, that is the point of this episode.
Perfect.
To help you better understand why you enjoy G4 Tequila.
Yes.
Okay, so that whole thing about mad scientists. Let's go back to that quote we started with. Roy, can you run that again?
For me, it's a game, but for so many people, why do you say it's a game? We're looking, and this is my playground. And we are always looking for the best profile we can get, different profiles.
Oh, that was a different quote, but thank you for running that one, Roy. Appreciate that.
We love you, Roy.
So it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that he's looking for those different profiles, right, and using those different barrels, and in essence, he's trying to play around, which to me feels like sort of the opposite of what I would call the big tequila game.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like is this true that G4 was a project that he began to give himself, afford the freedom to play and experiment and guess? I know that that's very common in wine, that there's often like a big label with a name that is very well known, and then you'll get I'm thinking of being in a buyer role. Folks come, they have, ride withs or like guests from out of town, and they want to show you that specific line of wine. And often it is like a younger generation who's working with their parent maybe, and they want to do something cool. They don't maybe have the freedom to do it within the big name because, there's a certain reputation perhaps, or, various producers, different things. But maybe, the producer, the winemaker wants to experiment a little. They want to use, a grape that is always aged and they want to drink it young and juicy or whatever the case. So I wonder if this was in the Camarena mindset when they started G4.
Well, I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay. I love a both and. Here for a both and, Lou.
So actually the biggest thing that they produce, and Felipe produces tequila for other brands, right? But the biggest brand they have, in fact, is G4.
Oh, it is. G4 is his biggest brand.
Oh my God, G4 is so big right now. And it's funny, they're having to increase the capacity of the distillery. They're selling so much of it. Wow. But having said that, to your point, the G4 stands for, Generation 4. And he literally, like Felipe himself is G3, right?
Oh, he's 3. Felipe is 3?
He's 3.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. So how old are his kids? Does he have kids that are producing?
He does. Elan, and I want to say Tomas, but I might have that second name wrong, in which case future Lou is going to come in and correct that. Oh, come on, past Lou. You got Elan right, but Felipe's other son is Luis Felipe. Luis, like your name, or, my name, I guess, really our name. You should know that, past Lou.
He's very smart, future Lou.
Oh God, he's way smarter than I am. So they are the titular G4, and I met Elan, and I'd be guessing his age, if I were to say it, but
Younger than me.
Well,
I am 159. Just kidding.
I'd guess 20s. I'd guess
Okay,
20s. Yeah.
that's kind of what I was figuring.
But but what I found is that Felipe is the guy who's playing around, right? And you see that. Well, okay, hang on. I've got another interesting quote from him. Okay, so it's like the playing around even starts with the agaves.
Okay, right. So he wants to look, he's interested in looking at multiple sort of steps of the process or variables. You often call them the 400 decisions. He's not just isolating one and playing around. He's like, what can I do here? How can I poke around in here? What's new over here?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Right. Let me run this quote I got from him to talk about the agaves.
Okay.
We have a field here. This is implantation, okay? But part is in flat area and part is going to the hills. If you separate the flat area and the hills, you will find different profiles. The agave in the fields, it was the same agave, same care of it. It will be small, and it will take about 1 more year in order to get the maturity comparing with the other one. Both will give you different profiles. Mixing all of them, okay, this is coming from this field, but you can separate both. What's the difference? Micro weather. If it's cold, just a small breeze will in the hills will prevent formation of ice crystals in the leaves. In the flat area, it will be. Then in the flat areas will be more stress at the agave than in the hills, and you can see the agave in the flat areas bigger than the lower areas. But at the end of the day, it will be the largest content of sugar. It will be with the small agave coming from the hills. Takes 1 more year, but concentration of sugar will be so much more than in the flat areas. The agave looks better by a photo in the flat area, not in the hills. But the hills is so much better. The percentage of sugar content is different, but at the same time it's the same field. What's the difference? The micro weather.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. I've not met Felipe yet, but hearing him talk about that gives me fills me with appreciation that he is an expert in more than one category, so to speak. I mean, his mastery of his field is mastery of 10 fields. Right there, he's talking about agriculture, about paying attention, about being a farmer. He'll also go in and talk about the barrels and picking you ran the quote where he already highlighted that. That is so impressive to me.
Right.
I love that.
So at the very beginning of it all, he's even playing around with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, of course, the next part of the process, Linda, well, I guess the next part would be harvesting. I didn't ask him about harvesting. He might have interesting harvesting.
He could have, often the mezcaleros have a lot to say about the tools. And you go to different regions. I know we've seen different shaped tools, and that's a cool
handmade tools.
Yeah, that's a cool piece of the 400 decisions.
So I don't know what tools. If Felipe, get back to me and let me know what tools
ask
you're
him
using.
next time.
But then the following part of the process, you have to, of course, hydrolyze all those potential sugars in the agave into actual fermentable sugars, and he does that by cooking. And he cooks slowly in a brick steam oven for 36 hours.
A day and a half.
Yeah. Right? And then he collects the bitter honey runoff to include in different proportions.
The miel amarga.
Yeah, exactly.
I talk about that all the time. I love when you cook agave underground. I've never seen anyone do that because it just soaks into the earth, right?
Yeah.
But when you steam in an above ground brick oven, you have this cool opportunity to catch that runoff, which is so flavorful.
Yeah, so like he does one blast for I don't know how many hours off the top of my head, and then that runoff he gets rid of because it's got all the bugs and you know the boobly boos on it.
The boobly boos.
Yeah,
can't have that. No boobly boos in the G4 boobly boo free.
But then for that second cook, the second blast, the second steam, that bitter honey runoff, he's taking that, and it's interesting. I posted. Did I post? No, that my friends had packaged. Who are they're paying us to do this episode.
Hey,
I know.
Thanks, package.
Bought and sold. Well,
they're great guys. I got no qualms.
Right? So they posted the video online of the overall umbrella view of the visit I did with them to the different producers. And in part of that video, I'm talking about the bitter honey and how it's used in fermentation. And somebody said, they don't use the bitter honey in the fermentation. I thought, oh, maybe I got it wrong. And so I reached out to Alon and I asked him, and he said, well, it's a little confusing because sometimes we do and sometimes we don't in different proportions. And it really, the way he said it, and he said it, I would run his quote, except that he said it in a WhatsApp message, which is hard to run as a quote.
Yeah, that is.
But in essence, he boiled it down. He said, well, look, we taste stuff and we try to figure it out and we're playing with it, which, speaks to that whole experimental.
That fits right in. And so that's kind of interesting that you specifically talked to Alan.
Right.
Because now you're seeing these tethers between Generation 3 and Generation 4, right?
Yeah.
They are both appreciating and proud of the experimentation detail. I also love the transparency. Like when you ask Alan, he's like, yeah, that's because it changes.
Yeah.
We make different choices. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we use a lot, sometimes we use a little, etc. Right?
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
because there's transparency there. And then once you hear what the behind the scenes is, there's another opportunity for the drinker or the purchaser to appreciate what went down to get in that bottle.
Even if they don't understand it. Like there's no, right? Because of the bottles, it would be impossible, I would say, with all the changes for them to outline exactly what was done for this specific bottle.
So that's tricky though. I mean, we've talked about what I often call the library labels before too, where they tell you a lot of information. Like so even these couple things I've learned about G4 right now, today, in the mobile studio, like they excite me, and I anticipate that other gringx bartenders and agave appreciators also want or would be delighted by that information. Do you know anything about what kind of plan does G4 have to say, hey, we want people to know about this narrative? Because you can't write all that on the bottle.
Well, I think that's the point.
Oh, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
morning.
And actually, there's a curveball coming up that you're going to really love. But before we get there,
shocker.
Before we get there, Linda, right? We've cooked our agave, but now we have to mill it.
Yes.
Let me just, Roy, hit the milling quote.
When I was building the distillery, I started building the round normal Tahona. But then nice, come on, it's really inefficient. This should be a better way to do this. So in my head, in my mission, we'll be working the same but more efficient doing this, coming and going horizontal one, but never did it before. So in order to not spend much money, trying to save our money, it was an experiment. Let's see what's going on. So why everybody is calling this Frankenstein? Because it's a Frankenstein. The cylinder is coming from a junkyard for heavy machinery. The axis is coming from a train wagon, okay? And even the bearings are coming from a junkyard, from the trailers. Let's see what's happened. And oh my God, it's working better than I thought. And there's still working after 14 years. You just saw this. It's more efficient. With the stone, you can process about 3 tons in 8 hours. With this one, we are processing 2.5 tons every 2 hours. The difference is huge, and we, with the stone, in this, you will be requiring 14, 15 kilos. It's very inefficient, to get 1 liter of tequila. In our case, the agave is so good. Sometimes, exceptionally, we got 1 liter for 7 kilos, not for 15. Average for us is about 9 kilos, which is so similar than the mills. So similar.
So I got to tell you.
When he's quoting for you, is he speaking in English?
Yeah.
That's great. I love his manner.
Yeah. You know, I dug hanging out.
Hanging out.
Well, there was a lot of hugging going on.
I was going to say hugging out.
We hugged it out. So, you know, it's funny at the, I'll get back to this mill in a second because it is fascinating, but at the end of the visit, he looked at me and he said, "Do you know that I am whiter than you are?" And I said, "Felipe,
impossible."
Yeah, I don't think you understand just how white I am. I was going to start dancing, and before I could, he rolled up his pant leg to show me how white his leg is.
Oh, hilarious. This is the picture. I saw this picture.
Yes. And then I rolled up my pant leg, and he jumped back in horror.
So you still debunked his statement.
I did. I outwhited him.
What a great sense of humor he seems to have.
No, he was a lot of fun to hang out with. Anyway, so the mill that he's talking about, it's literally like you know those machines. This is what it looks like to me. I don't know that this is what it is, but it looked like to me. You know the machines that you see that are pushing down pavement, or like in cartoons, the ones that always end up flattening the Wile E.
They have the
Coyote,
big heavy roller wheel.
It looked like that.
Really?
Yeah, there were some, like, my recollection is there were like notches on it that he had added. So, you know, you wouldn't have that in a flattener because you want your Wile E. Coyote to be flat.
Right.
But this would like end up creating like a waffly thing.
Yes. Yeah. So he's, in my mind, that says he recognizes that the texture of the Tahona is crucial. He still wants that as part of his process. So he likes this new piece from it's not new. He said it's been there for 15 years. Yeah. But he likes that from the junkyard, but recognizes that it's better that if it has texture. So he adds that.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, well, Linda, what would be the next step?
Well, after you mill, you would want to ferment it.
Right. So what do you do?
Well, it depends on if he's going to leave the bagasso in or not.
Exactly. and he plays around with that. Sometimes not sometimes. There are specific fermenters where he leaves some in, some where there's none in. And when I was there, he was just starting an experiment where he left all the bagasso in for one of the fermenters. Right? But then there's also the question of, okay, well, what kind of vessel are you fermenting in? Mm-hmm. And he's got some wooden ones, and he's got some steel ones, and he's got, and some of the masonry ones.
What I'm learning about him, that really makes sense.
And then you have to add water, right? Mm-hmm. Let me run this quote. Well, I guess I can't. Roy, could you run the quote about water from Felipe?
Help us, Roy.
Water. Well, this is interesting thing. So many producers are telling you we're producing the best tequila because we're using the best agaves possible. Yes, you should do that, but what about the water? You don't have really good water, nice quality water. Doesn't matter if your agave is so good or not. You will never get the best quality. It should be coming together. In my opinion, it's more important the quality of the water than the agave. Think on it. In this bottle, 60% it is water. That is 40% alcohol, and water was involved in every single step in the process in order to produce the alcohol. If water is bad, you won't get the best product. Water is so important. What quality? It is good water, bad water. It is coming from the city, and you need to remove chlorine before you are using. That will make a lot of differences. We are so lucky because of our location, because we have. In any moment, we'll start the rain season, and we'll be collecting rainwater, and producing everything, and we'll be using rainwater for everything, for clean, even for the restroom, for everything. And we will be producing tequila with rainwater. The boss is still cares. He's taking care of us. We have a couple of springs with fresh water. Coming the water till now, the whole year we have water coming from the springs, and at the end we have the deep well water. Every 6 months, when it's mandatory, we should send CRTs taking samples to the lab in order to say if it's drinkable. The water is inside regulation, and we are okay. And every 2 years, they are taking samples in order to check heavy metals. Till now, we are fine. We are passing all these things. If you want to see, if you ask me for a drink of water, you will be drinking what we are drinking. Which water? From the faucet. Maybe it will be rainwater, it will be spring water. It is clean. There is nothing in there. You can drink it safely. Water is absolutely important. In my opinion, it's more important than agave. Put together best quality agaves and best quality tequila, and you have a winner.
Some of what he says indicate that he agrees with my mehanisms. Your cocktail can only be as good as its worst ingredient.
Oh, yeah.
In some ways, that's what he's saying.
And by mehanisms, you're talking about Jim Meehan.
Jim Meehan?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it was fascinating to me to see how he uses different waters to get different flavor profiles. Like, that's a big piece of it in his experimentation.
And I also heard in there like a timing detail. Sometimes I'm thinking that the one about the when he's talking about the time of season where there's a lot of frozen water, I'm assuming that's like mountain melt. When the caps are icy, and then you get that, and that's like a really, I would think, beautiful like water source. Right?
Yeah.
And so doesn't sound like that's available all year. So he has an awareness of when in the season his process is happening, and that sounds like it pushes his water choice.
Yeah.
Different ones at different times of the season or the year.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so we were talking about the fiber, right? I mean, you leave some in, some doesn't, right? So, and you were talking about, how you think the average tequila geek would like to know all these different details, right?
Yes.
So, okay, so he's got this great quote about one of the times that the geeks discovered something, got excited about it, and tried to figure out what was going on. Right? So let's hit that
Let's
one,
hear it,
Roy.
Nancy Drew.
Why we decided to add this 6% from wooden fermentation tank? It was an accident. Suddenly, people was looking in internet and recommending, you should try Lot 12B. Lot 12B, what is different? What's going on? Why people is looking for this? It's the same. I know every single lot has small changes, but not that notorious. Why do people look in this? So I was talking with people, what happened? And what happened, it was necessary in the work for the total volume, 10,000 liters. But we've been short for 200 liters, and then my people add the extra 200 liters with wooden tanks. So that makes a difference. Wooden tanks, and then we start playing with this 2% and 3%, 4%, and I really liked the combination with 3%. But we started with this by accident. What's different? What's different? People like it. Let's do this.
Wow. There's a lot in there. He's like, I'm surprised that he is responding so strongly to the voice of the people.
I get that, but I think in essence, he's okay. If you taste across the board all the different tequilas he makes, right? Each one is very specific in flavor. You would never confuse, right, a G4 for one of the other brands that he provides for. And so I think in his mind, it's all delicious. And he's just trying to figure out, okay, so which delicious do the people like?
Right.
And so then he starts reading online. Oh, well, lot 12B. He's like, okay, what did we do?
Right.
And he didn't think there was anything different. It was his staff were like, oh, crap, we're short 200 liters. And so they go and they grab it from this other thing, which I also thought was beautiful in that, so his staff can experiment And he's not angry about that. He's excited by that.
Mm-hmm. He must also have a fabulous palate because he's talking about 1%, 2%, 3%.
Right.
And he's like, oh, yeah, the 6 was it. And I'm like, whoa, that's so specific, you know?
Right? Yeah.
Really, the mad scientist nickname is really coming through.
Yeah.
Because he also seems to just be, in his quotes, just delighted about the experimentation.
Yeah, oh,
right? He's not, he doesn't sound like a person who's like too easily defeated or, you know, comes out not how he likes. He just goes back again. He really seems to find satisfaction in the play.
Oh, absolutely.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So now, you know, to go back to what you had said at the very beginning. Yeah, at the very beginning. So they've just installed, well, I was there, they were finishing up the installation of these new stills to meet the demand for capacity. But, you know, I recognize that even as he's growing, he's trying to not grow beyond his ability to make good tequila, right? Mm-hmm. So here again, I got this fine quote I'd like to run.
And I do believe we are still here because we're taking care of quality. I think both things are so important. The right people, and we should keep. I was talking with my son. There is a limit for this. Yes, there is a limit. There is a line. In order to get more volume, don't mess with quality. If you cannot produce anymore, you cannot produce anymore. Don't cross this line because of the quality. We are growing. If you mess with quality, we are going so fast. Our fall will be so fast. Then keep doing this.
What an honorable man.
Right?
Yeah. I am totally smitten with all of his like philosophies through the process. I mean, that's we hope that for every producer in the agave world. I would love for that to be true for all of the spirits.
Yeah, you know, if you think you're smitten now, once you see his legs.
His white legs, in his opinion.
white legs. But you know, but the other thing I'll say too is even as he's growing and he's trying to maintain quality, he also recognizes that growth can have an impact on the environment. And so he's trying to minimize that carbon footprint. So, you know, they're working a lot on solar power. They recycle their water. So he's being really mindful of exactly the impact that he's going to have and trying to minimize it. Yeah.
Does he talk at all about, what's the name for the wastewater? Starts with a V.
The vinasse.
Vinasse.
Yeah.
What, does he talk at all about how they manage that?
You know, honestly, I can't recall having that specific conversation. But the fact that he's talking about recycled water with me, I suspect that was just sort of a language thing. I think that's one of the things that he processes back to be useful water.
Okay. So he has some kind of machine contraption. Frankenstein. Is that what he called the mill?
Yes,
he has a Frankenstein thing that reverse osmosis or whatever happens.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so, you know, I brought these samples for you to taste, and I think it'd be silly to sit here and make everybody listen to you sip and then say, this is blah, blah, blah.
Rude.
This is but rude. I think what we'll do is a quick montage. Roy, I want you to montage us going through and tasting. But I will say this, that I was able to I'm sitting in Chicago in our mobile studio. Right?
Yep.
Chicago is a big city that generally has easy access to everything. So we were able to get samples of everything from G4, all of the different expressions, with one exception, the añejo. And it's really hard to find G4. Like, all the expressions are difficult to find these days, which is why they have to ramp up production. But the añejo in particular, we couldn't even get a sample of it.
Really?
Yeah, from our friends at Packaged. They gave us money to do this episode. They couldn't give us añejo.
Oh, wow.
The añejo is worth more than money.
Wow.
I know.
Let's get some.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some. But anyway, so let's taste through this now.
Okay.
We should definitely go Blanco first, right?
It's absolutely delicious.
Blanco, very nice.
So when I drink a Blanco tequila, like, it sounds so silly, but I want it just to taste kind of like the plant. I want it to taste like agave, and that's pretty much what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. So I think next would be Blanco in the wood.
Like the juice is, whoa, that one's filled all the way to the top.
Man, my card now smells like the Blanco de Madera.
Oh, immediately for me, there's a little bit more of a earthen. I feel like just a little bit of like canela and nutmeg, like those dry baking spices, but not like vanilla, caramel, the deeper aged flavors, but a little bit of that spice. Now, in the first Blanco, I felt like the finish was really refreshing, kind of like lifted and eucalyptusy, and I still taste that in this one, which I so appreciate.
So it was fermented in the wood.
It was fermented in wood, but it wasn't rested afterwards.
It was arrested for being so delicious.
You're arrested.
Oh yeah, it's nice. I dig that.
I think it's really nice. I'm actually surprised that the qualities I identify with barrel or wood aging are coming through so strong from the ferment stage.
I drink that.
You are currently
in my car, parked in front of a fire hydrant.
Oh yeah, I would like to note that today's mobile studio scenario might be one of the most illegal that we've ever had.
Are we still recording? Yeah, we're still recording.
I really enjoy that.
I dig that. So now we're gonna repo.
They're I just lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say?
Perfect.
No, Lou.
Okay, so extra añejo it is.
Get out of here.
Did you even taste the
No, I'm too busy talking. You can't talk and taste at the same time.
You can't talk and taste.
You can't either.
Well, I can drink, I can't taste. Just go and tell Felipe, hey, I really like
that
this
might
one.
have been,
Let him
that's the
figure
first time
it
I've
out.
tasted
That's
that. Is G4, do they have that bottle? This is the Repo?
Yeah.
Reposado?
You're on the repo. I jumped ahead to the extra.
Oh, okay, right. I'm behind a second. All gringx bartenders, do we know? Blanco, unaged, reposado, rested.
Well, actually, it doesn't mean unaged.
Añejo, well, or under 2 months. Anything under 2 months. But the reason it's called not blank, but white is because it doesn't
looks
take
like
on.
his legs.
It looks like Lou's legs.
I was thinking
Oh my gosh.
Felipe's, but yeah.
No, but that you should commission a bottle with Felipe, and it should be white legs.
Wow, it didn't take long for you to get a little sideways with this stuff, did it? The extra añejo, like I dig that, but it tastes so woody to me. I don't think I would order it. You know, for people who are digging the wood, I'm kind of bummed.
Extra añejo is, I don't think I have ever ordered this out in the world. I find that I in the tequila world, I often gravitate towards a reposado because of exactly what delighted me about the G4. I could still taste some of those qualities from the Blanco shining through and starting to get hints of some of the sweet spice and the stuff that's inside the barrel. Typically, I feel like once you go into longer age statements, the añejo and extra, for me, I often face the disappointment of having lost or clouded, right, covered those initial qualities from the Blanco.
I feel like I am those longer age statements that you're talking about.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But are you sweeter than you were before?
No.
Is the perception that you are sweeter?
No, I am
And
definitely
there's where the metaphor
over-oaked.
breaks down. Do you want the high proof?
Oh, I forgot the high proof. God.
will
We're not
give
quite
you
done yet.
tiny-
Okay.
We're back.
Thank you.
54%. Yeah.
Well, that's good too. I'm still I'm with the Blanco and the Madera.
Ooh, wow. I love the overproof. Ooh, how nice. I feel like the sort of eucalyptusy spearmint quality that I got in the Blanco is really lively here. A lot of high proofs, my brain goes to, you can probably cut all of this, Roy, but goes to like little dancing creatures on my palate.
Don't cut that, Roy. I want that in. Okay, so now can we wrap?
Yeah, we can wrap.
Okay. So, to conclude this first episode of Agave Road Show.
Wrap the show
Right.
up in a pretty bow.
G4 became initially people were resistant to tasting it because of the name G4. Didn't sound like a real tequila.
Get out, really?
Yeah, seriously.
I didn't know they struggled with like pushback like that.
Oh yeah, huge.
Have you
Huge.
said how old the brand is?
No. But future Lou will. So G4 Tequila would have entered the Mexican market sometime around 2010, and it entered the U.S. market sometime around 2016. So the folks at Packaged, to try to get beyond that, started this whole campaign called Felipe Friday, where every Friday would just put, Felipe Friday, let's drink something by Felipe Camarena, right?
Yeah, great.
Really
okay. So that like they also have a creative marketing approach and team.
Yeah. So I think for me this was not the end of our conversation, but I knew once I got this quote that it was going to be the wrap for the episode. I asked Felipe Friday how he celebrates Felipe. I'm sorry. I asked Felipe how he celebrates Felipe Friday.
Oh, this is great. I can't wait to know what his answer is.
Okay, Roy, if you can run it and then wrap it.
I like a better side of this because I finished it. Now I can go out of bed and to sleep a little bit more. So I do like service.
I adore him. So cute.
Agave Road Show is a production of 10 Angry Pit Bulls, Inc. All rights reserved, and most of the lefts, too.